Hey guys, Lima here. This video is a project that I've been working on for a very long time now, using different materials, different equipment, and a different setup entirely to make this video as good as I possibly can make it. A lot of research, editing, learning how to use new equipment has gone into this. I hope this video will be informational for new collectors, seasoned collectors, everybody alike, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. But I won't keep you waiting any longer, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Roman Republic, Anonymous C86 BC, AR Denarius, OBV Apollo Head Fulman, RV Jupiter in Quadriga, CHAU Strike 4/5, Surface 5/5. What am I even saying right now? And why did I spend hundreds to have this coin in my collection? But more importantly, the reason why you clicked on this video, why is this god on this coin? In this video, I aim to answer those questions. I'm hoping that whether this is the very first video about coins you've ever watched or you're a seasoned veteran of the hobby, you'll find this video to be both entertaining and informative as I share what makes this particular coin special and interesting. To do that, let's start with all those words I opened the video with, that numismatic vocabulary that may sound like gibberish to a new viewer out there. Roman Republic. The first line is pretty obvious, but I can't assume what you all know. It tells us where the coin was made. The Roman Republic is pretty much the same thing as the Roman Empire, just before it was actually an empire. The traditional dates of the Roman Republic are 509 BC to 27 BC. Putting that in perspective, that's between 2,535 and 2,053 years ago. For the sake of time, I'll assume you're familiar with what and where Rome is. Anonymous, C86 BC. Speaking of that time period, the next line describes when the coin was made, but also who it was made by. The coin is described as anonymous because there are no inscriptions on the coin that tell us who made it or designed it, or when or where it was made. But that's not to say that scholars and archaeologists can't tell us when or where this coin was made. We know it's from 86 BC. But how do we know it's from 86 BC, you're asking, if there's nothing on the coin that tells us that? Now, I'll admit, I'm no archaeologist, so exactly how they pinpointed the date of this coin, I'm not positive. But it's likely it has a lot to do with two techniques. First, let's compare this coin to non-anonymous coins. Take this coin pictured on screen, for example. The inscriptions GAR, OCU, and VER are the names of the three moneyers of 86 BC, Gargonius, Ogulnius, and Vergilius, respectively. And since the design is the same, the historian at some point in time made the assumption that those moneyers also made the anonymous issue that you can see on screen, the one that I bought. That is one way we got this 86 BC attribution, but the second technique that could support that evidence even further is just the pure methodology of archaeology, which is a technique called hoard dating. So let's think about it. Every ancient coin found in a hoard must have been made before the hoard was left. So if this particular type of coin appeared in a bunch of hoards ranging from, let's say, 86 BC to 50 BC, then the coin was very likely made in 86 BC because that's when it first appeared. And that is kind of hard to understand at first, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. But let's move on to the next line. AR Denarius. AR is short for argentum, which is the Roman or Latin word for silver, and denarius is the denomination, like how much the coin would have been worth to the Roman who was spending it. A modern denomination would be like a quarter or a nickel. So the most common way to describe the value of a denarius is that a common soldier would be paid 1 silver denarius each day. While that's not exactly true, it's a good story to tell the general idea that the denarius was usually worth about a day's worth of unskilled labor. Minimum wage for 6 hours, if you will. But before we get to the next two lines, which are my favorite to talk about and the real reason why I'm making this video, let's briefly talk about the attributes that are on the right side of the label. CHAU Strike 4/5, Surface 5/5. This is how the coin was graded. This part tells us what the condition of the coin is, and a lot of the time it is really the part that determines the coin's collectible and dollar value. CHAU stands for choice, almost uncirculated. In brief, this tells us the coin circulated hands for just a short amount of time before it was taken out of circulation, either by burial or by collecting. It's called choice because if we were to compare it to other almost uncirculated coins, it would be approximately in the top third of the nicest of the bunch. Choice, meaning this is the coin a collector would want to choose for their collection. So then we have the strike and the surface grades. Strike is graded on both power and centering. A weak strike would show less details on the coin and thus a lower strike grade. Same if it was struck off-center. Being off-center can mean large chunks of the design are missing, calling for a lower grade to be given for the strike. The surface is pretty self-explanatory, simply grading how nice the surface of the coin appears. Is it pitted or dirty? Is it clean, lustrous, and does it even have some nice original patina? Coins such as this one that retain its original surface without pitting or dirt will achieve high surface grades. And this one happens to be a perfect 5 out of 5, which is very suitable, I think, graded for its smooth, original surface, complete with this beautiful, original luster and bright patina that you can see right now. Alright, maybe I rambled a bit too long about all that other information on the label, and maybe you clicked on this video for anything but all of that I just talked about. But that's okay, because now it's time to talk about the really, really interesting part of the coin, and my favorite part to talk about with coins. That being what is actually portrayed on the coin. So the last two lines on the label tell us what's on the front of the coin, labeled OBV for Obverse, and what's on the back of the coin, labeled RV for Reverse. For this video, let's start with the reverse, and then get to the really, really interesting Obverse for the end of the video. This reverse is just about one of the most common reverses for a denarius of the Roman Republic. It follows the exact formula of a certain god driving a horse-drawn chariot. In this case, there are 4 horses, making it a quadriga. It's also very common to see a biga or a triga on the reverse of a Roman coin, which depict 2 or 3 horses respectively. If you were a Roman who decided to go see the chariot race at your local Circus Maximus, or in modern terms, a racetrack, it's most likely you would see 4 horses per chariot, but you could also commonly see 2 or 3. It just depended on what the event was for exactly. While very rare, it did occasionally happen that 6 or 8 horses would draw a single chariot, which I'm sure would have been really, really entertaining and really impressive to watch. But that has nothing to do with this coin particularly. So aside from the history of Roman chariot racing, let's talk about this coin specifically because I think it's pretty awesome. On this reverse, we have the king of the gods, Jupiter, driving a quadriga while brandishing his godly weapon, the thunderbolt. It's cut off slightly due to the strike, but we can see 3 prongs that are unmistakable as the thunderbolt. Jupiter and the thunderbolt are depicted extremely often on Roman coins, almost as a form of propaganda. Those symbols tell the beholder, I am trustworthy, I am valuable, and I have authority. In fact, the thunderbolt is particularly interesting to me because it can even stand alone as a symbol of authority, not needing the company of Jupiter to tell the viewer the same message. This coin has authority and is recognized by the highest powers. This type of religious messaging to show power and authority is super common on ancient coins. Take this coin, for example. It's another one from my collection, and the reverse depicts a trident. And it may not be immediately obvious, but when you consider where this coin was made, in ancient Greek Syracuse, Sicily, it becomes clear what this symbol is saying. I am approved by Poseidon, god of the sea. Poseidon happens to be very important to the people of Syracuse, as their island nation depended on the sea. But all of this is to say how important and powerful simple symbols can be. So let's take that idea and apply it to our denarius. Take a look at the luster and the gorgeous toning on the reverse of this coin. This is partly what made this coin worth so much to me when I saw it on the auction site. The main goal for me when I'm browsing for an ancient coin is to find a coin with a mythological character on it, but this coin definitely stood out because of its condition. And I'm really proud to have a 2,100-year-old coin in my collection that still has original luster and toning on it. But at the same time, it's actually pretty common to find luster and toning on ancient coins, even though it seems like it really wouldn't be. It goes back to that idea that we were talking about earlier about coin hoards. You'd probably expect the coins in those coin hoards to be eaten and almost corroded completely away by the dirt and the elements over the centuries. And while that is true for a lot of copper and base metal coins, that's actually not true for ancient silver and gold coins. In practice, the elements just don't do much to those metals, even after 2,000 years in the ground. Those metals are just too inert, too stable to corrode away. And even further, a lot of the coins are surrounded by dozens of other coins, and they all shield each other from the elements. So sometimes it's almost like the elements never even touched the coin. And that's most definitely what happened to this coin. It was probably found in the middle of a large hoard, probably in a piece of pottery that was buried as a sort of savings account, which the owner never returned to. We can't know for sure, but that's the most common scenario and the most likely explanation for why this coin still looks the way it does after 2,100 years. Alright, so I think it's time to talk about the Obverse. But before we do, if you have any questions about the reverse of this coin or anything that I've said so far, make sure to drop a comment and I will definitely give my best reply. So let's talk about the obverse of this coin, OBV Apollo Head Fulman. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the reason you guys are probably watching this video is because you want to know, why is this god on this coin? You're probably thinking that Apollo, the god of music, the god of the sun, the god of beauty in some cases, isn't necessarily the most fitting god to put on a coin. Sure, Jupiter or Zeus or even Mercury or Hermes, who's the god of merchants and commerce, makes a lot of sense to put on a coin because those gods and their domains have a clear connection to coins and to money. But Apollo, god of music, god of the sun, not really. But honestly, that doesn't really matter. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, they basically put any god you could think of on a coin at some point in time. The most common god on a coin is probably Zeus or Jupiter because, as the king of the gods, he has the strongest authority in the mythology of the ancient world. And when you hold a coin that has Jupiter on it, like I said earlier, it's like a form of propaganda that says, I'm trustworthy, I am valuable, and I have authority. It tells the person holding the coin that the coin has worth and can be used to buy something that they need. And a merchant will be willing to take the coin because they know that the coin will be trusted. And do you remember what I said about Jupiter's thunderbolt? That it can stand on its own as a symbol of authority, a symbol of Jupiter, telling us the same messages even without the face of Jupiter right next to it? Well, look at what's under Apollo's neck on the obverse of this coin. It's Jupiter's thunderbolt. But this does beg a very interesting question, which I had to do a little bit of research to double check. The thunderbolt is not a symbol of Apollo at all, and I'm not sure that there's even any stories in mythology where Apollo uses the thunderbolt or even holds it. What if it's not Apollo at all? And I need to go buy a different coin to make sure I own Apollo's likeness in my collection, because that's what I'm going for. Well, put simply, the answer is technically yes. This theoretically could be Jupiter on the obverse of this coin. Although that would be a little bit unusual, because to find an unbearded depiction of Jupiter would be very rare. I'll put up some images right now of other Roman denarii that depict Jupiter on the obverse, and you can see that these Jupiters, they all have beards. And even on the reverse of this coin, we saw Jupiter, and he has a beard. So if you were the artist and you engraved Jupiter on one side of your coin with a beard, would you not do the same on the opposite side? Why wouldn't you? So this is almost definitely Apollo and not Jupiter. So I do not need to go buy a different coin to get Apollo's true likeness. But we still don't know why the thunderbolt is there. And the answer is, it's just that it's that symbol of authority. It's a symbol of divinity. So that when you look at this person on the coin, you know that this is a god and not a self-portrait or a portrait of the consul or something like that. The laurel wreath is another symbol associated with the gods and with power, and we can see Apollo wearing one on the obverse of this coin. When we put all of this together, the obverse of this coin just screams authority. It doesn't matter that Apollo isn't the king of the gods or the god with the most authority. He's still a god, and he's telling the holder of this coin that this coin is it. It as in the real stuff. So to answer the question, why is Apollo on the obverse of this coin? One explanation is that he's just a god, plain and simple. He tells the holder these messages that I've mentioned many times now. I have authority. If you were a Roman merchant or a Roman citizen and you had this coin, you would trust it. You could go out and you could buy something with it. And then that merchant would take it because they would know, yeah, this is a real good coin. But there is one more reason Apollo might be on the obverse of this coin. There's no way to really prove it for this coin specifically, but it is possible that Apollo was put on the obverse of this coin as a way to worship Apollo. And I'll show you a real-life example of this, conveniently using another coin from my collection. So right here on screen is one of my favorite ancient coins in my collection. The obverse of this coin features Helios, the god of the sun. Similar to Apollo and his connection to the sun, except Helios is actually the personification of the sun. Helios literally is the sun, while Apollo is the sunlight and its energy. In mythology, quote, Helios' chariot emits fire and is led by either 2 or 4 horses. Every day Helios travels the sky with it from his palace in the east to that in the west. In the morning he wakes up on one side of Oceanus, leaves behind him his own land Aya, the Red Sea and the land of the Ethiops, and rises to the center of the vault of heaven. From there he descends from the other side of Oceanus towards the mountains to Erythea, the land of the western Ethiops, where his sacred cattle graze. Every morning, Thetis unlocks the gates to his coach house where his chariot is kept, while in the evening Poseidon receives his horses that need to rest. During the night, a flying bed or chryselephantine cup transported the sleeping god from the west to the east so that he could begin his travel all over again. End quote. And that quote came from the book Myth and Coinage, published by the National Archaeological Museum and Numismatic Museum in association with the Alpha Bank in Athens, Greece. So you know the story is legit. And I just wanted to give them credit. So that quote shows how Helios literally is the sun. That story describes the sun's journey from the land of the east to the land of the west, which I just think is really, really cool. But back to the coin. This coin is from Rhodes, a small Greek island in the Mediterranean where the patron god of the nation is Helios. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world was the Colossus of Rhodes, a colossal statue of the god Helios. Basically, since Helios was so important to the islanders found every way they could to worship the god, including putting him on their coins. So going back to a Roman denarius of Apollo, it is very possible that Apollo was put on this coin for a similar reason, to worship him. Although between the two possibilities of using Apollo as symbolism to portray certain messaging on the coin and putting Apollo on the coin to worship him, the former is more likely, especially on a coin of the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic was a big and powerful nation. Those who had political power every year had different things put on the coins to tell people what their political agendas were about. In this particular case, Apollo was used as a sign of authority, divinity, and trust, stabilizing the currency so that the economy could flourish, and to tell the holder that both the government who issued the coin and the economy it's being used in are stable. And with that, that concludes the details of the obverse of this coin. And of course, if you have any questions about the obverse or reverse or anything, make sure to leave a comment. I have to say, just wow. That coin pictures better than I think any other coin in my collection. Just the luster, the color, and to think that that coin is 2,000 years old and it still looks like that is honestly really crazy. So as you know, this video was made very differently from all the other videos I've ever made. This time I really focused on the individual parts, including just like getting the best picture I possibly could. And then I actually did a voiceover rather than talking while filming, using this new fancy microphone that I got. So please let me know what you thought about the video. Let me know what you thought about the coin in the comments. I think I'll continue focusing a little bit more on the quality of the videos going on. It might take a long time for me to upload, but I really want to focus on quality information, and I want to use this as a place to pour my creativity and passion about numismatics into something that I can share with other people. I am always very busy, so I don't have a lot of time to do this, which sucks. But I think that means that just when I do have the time, like right now, I'm putting myself into it. And look at this fun thing that I can do now. Got coins in the background. I can do so much stuff. So I really look forward to this future chapter, but let me know what you guys think. And I look forward to what comes next, which is going to be another ancient coin. And maybe some other videos. I don't know. I got lots of ideas. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Consider subscribing. Peace.